So there's been lots of talk over the past few decades about using runes for divination. And I myself admit to using runes for divination, but I think it's important that maybe we take a step back and look at some of the history of runes being used for divination. Probably the best place to go would be the sources written about the Norse. One of these would be Tacitus. Wrote the Germania, late 1st century Common Era, and in his travels he encountered a tribe that he described as casting lots by cutting the limb off of a fruit-bearing tree, slicing it into strips, then marking signs upon the strips. There's a few problems with this account. A lot of people do take in that that was probably an Old Norse tribe. It could be that they were using runes, but the fact of the matter is we don't really know where on the mainland Europe that Tacitus was when he wrote that. He could have encountered a Germanic tribe. They could have been using runes. They could have encountered a Gaul tribe, one of the Gaulish people out there, and they probably would not be using runes. And knowing that the Germanic tribes were very different in their approach to different things, we don't even know if he was using runes when he was casting lots. Well, not Tacitus, but the family member that was using the lots. So we don't really know what that is. Now, if we look to the Eddas, we'll certainly find certain passages referring to the gods go to consult the Blodtines. We'll see the word Blodspan, or we even see the word Hlautertine. Now let's take a little bit to look back at those. Now the word Blodtine. The word blod definitely does mean blood, and tine does mean stick, and it usually does refer to a stick where runes were carved on it or some other magical purpose was used. But whether that was used for divination, we really don't know. We don't know what that was for. And if we look at the word blot span or even hlautertine, the word blot does not mean blood. It refers to a sacrificial offering. You know, it was a ritual in which the gods were invited and an offering of some sort was given to them. And the word spawn, is where we get the word spoon from. So to me, this has me thinking, blot spawn. This would be more like an aspergill, used to sprinkle the sacrificial blood over the altar, over the people gathered. This is much in the same way that modern Asatru would use an evergreen twig to sprinkle mead over the altar and the people. And the word hlautertine, the word hlaut, that does mean offering. That is your gift that you're giving to the gods. And tine, the stick, again, this is something used for sprinkling. So we really don't have any literary evidence to support the use of runes being used as a divinatory tool. You know, and there's definitely no archaeological evidence. Now that is not surprising either. You know, in Tacitus were referred to that the runes were burned, or the sticks were burned when they were done. Given the fact that runes would have been carved on wood, there's very little likelihood that they would have survived through the centuries, so it makes no sense that there's no archaeological evidence. But what we do have evidence is the use of spow and sather for prophecy. That's in there. So we can trust that for a divinatory tool. But before we conclude here, I really do want us to get into a specific stanza of the Hávamál, stanza 80. Let me read it to you here real quick in Old Norse, and then I will give you my translation of it. That thou reynt, thu ath runum spir renum regen kunum. They mer gerthu ginregen, och fau they fimble thuler, thou hilfer han best, ef han thig. Now, every translation that you're going to find of that is clumsy, including mine that I'm going to share with you, and that's just because the Old Norse people were very, very good wordsmiths, and they knew how to hide their secrets in the different words that they used. And the words were specifically used for the specific intentions that were intended to be there. Ooh, haha, intended intentions. And so we're going to take a little bit of a look into this stanza deeper. But first, my translation. That is proven when you, of the mysteries, ask the wise rulers, those shaped by the holy rulers and colored by the great singer. He will have his best if he is silent. So the best for us to do on this one is let's break it down line by line. The first line, that our thou reint. That then is proven. Reint, interestingly enough, it's past tense of reina, which is related to runes, and the word reina is important to the Rune Guild. They've got a little phrase that they have, rein til runa, seek towards the mysteries. Runa being the operative word for mystery. We'll come back to that one. Now the next line is often interpreted as when you consult the runes. But that still doesn't work out here. Let's take a look at that line. It's that thalreint thu ath runum spear inum regen kunum. A lot of people leave it off at thu ath runum spear, which they translate to being when you come to consult the runes. Problem with that is the word runum. It's not runar. If you're using the word runar, it refers to the letters of the Futhark, the runes of the Futhark, in plural. But when you use the word runum, it refers to the universal mysteries. But that still isn't the complete sentence. If you leave it off at Erethuath runum spear, you have to include inum regen kunum, which basically means the wise rulers. Let's break up that word regen kunum. Regen can mean ruler, as in king or god. It can also mean world, but not like the world underneath your feet, not like the earth. This means world as in realm, as in universe, as in reality bubble, reality tunnel. And kunum, the ones who know, it's knowledge. So regen kunum could be the wise rulers, it could be those knowledgeable about the world, and I am in particular opinion that if the Norse have a compound word that has multiple meanings, they intended for all of those meanings to be relevant, not just one or the other. So this stanza actually means, as my interpretation, is if you come to ask of the mysteries of the wise rulers, you come to ask the gods about the runes, about the mysteries of the universe, not literally consulting the runes as in rune reading. Now I want to get deeper into the next ones. Next few lines of the stanza are practically a repeat out of the Runetal that are Gerthu Ginregen och Fade Fimbulthulur. Now what we have here, Fame Gerthu Ginregen, those who were shaped by the high holy rulers. Ginregen, of course, we go back to this one here. We have the word Regen at the end, the rulers, right? And Gin. Gin is the divine primordial state that existed before there was time. And so these runes, these universal mysteries, were shaped in the time before time, in the place before places, by the rulers that existed in a higher state before the gods existed. And if you really look at the stories of Odin, he was in this place before he descended or fell from this high divine place to bring his sense of enlightenment and illumination to the world. And how did he do that? That's seen in the next line, Och Fade Fimbulthulur, and shaped by the great singer. Fade being colored, Och Fade Fimbulthulur, colored by the great singer. Fimbulthulur, again we have the word Fimble. We see this in words like Fimbulvinter, the great winter. And we see it with Fimbulthulur, Thulur being a singer. A thul is like a magic song. As if you were to sing the runes, the Galdr, the song itself is the thul, the thula. And the person doing the singing is the Thulur. And so Odin, as the great Fimbul Thulur, took the runes that were made by the Ginrig and the High Holy Ones and gave it a vibration, gave it a form. He took this basic intent that wasn't even an energy, it wasn't even a form, it was just an intention of pure consciousness. And he gave it a form so other beings who are not of the Gin state could understand. This is the Fimbul Thul, the Fimbul Thula, the great song. We don't know what that song was, but when we sing the runes, and we use runes in Galdr, when we sing these runes in Galdr form, we are tapping into this ancient Fimbul Thula, tapping into Odin's ancient ways. Now, this last line, Thou heifer han best, et han thig. It's translated as, it is best to be silent. And I can agree with that. My literal translation is that he has his best if he is silent. And what I believe they mean by this one is not shut your mouth and listen, is silence the mind, silence the being. When you come to the gods to ask of the great mysteries, silence your mind. Look for the space between the thoughts. Go between the layers of all the words, of all the thoughts, of all the visuals. Allow yourself to embrace the dark mind where nothing is there. At least it seems like nothing is there. And as you sit in this transcendent phase of nothingness of mind, you will be encountering your pure consciousness of your true self, of your true being. So what I really think this stanza represents is, if you want to know the mysteries of the universe, the mysteries that came from the time before time, the mysteries that Odin sings about, you need to silence your mind. You need to quiet your world and enter into your own divine state, wherein you, not any external source, wherein you become your own Regin Kunum. You become your own God. And then you can truly understand the mysteries. And I think this is what the runes are all really about. So, ultimately, the runes can be useful as divination, but in truth, it's a modern invention. There is no literary or archaeological evidence to prove runes as a divinatory tool. However, there is ample archaeological and literary evidence that runes were used for magical purposes and for transformational work, but that's for a different video. For now, I encourage you to seek your own mysteries, seek your own divinity, and the runes are a very useful tool for that one, if you learn how to embrace it and come into your own being.